he interviews those people and says, tell me about Dorian. And not everything was great. He'll be like, man, Dorian's a bully. He's aggressive. He's doing this, changing this, doing this. And he's like, oh, okay. And literally, Tom grabbed me one day. He goes, you're a little bit of a bully. I said, okay, Tom, is that good or bad? He goes, no, we needed some change and you're shaking it up. He goes, and you're moving the needle and you're assembling a team.
Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with Dorian Jimenez, dealer principal at Classic Chevrolet in Oklahoma. We explore his remarkable journey from leading the #1 Chevy store in America to making a bold career move, buying into and turning around a struggling dealership. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: Open Lane, CDG Recruiting, and Trade Pending. And now, let's get into the show. Dorian Jimenez on the CDG podcast. Dorian, welcome.
Yossi, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this. Really excited.
You are quite the enigma, my friend. Riding horses in the showroom, playing the guitar, a pre-med degree, and now dealer principal. That's a good one. Fun fact, my mom wanted my middle name to be Joe. And that is my middle name, by the way, because she thought I would be a doctor and saying Yossi would be tough to pronounce. So that didn't really pan out, unless you can say I was diagnosing people in the showroom.
There you go.
But it did. But that's a little quick fun fact. But less about me, more about you. 6,500 reviews on Google, respectable 4.7 rating, not to mention born on an Air Force base. Welcome to the podcast, Dorian.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's not my typical. Go ahead.
When I tell everybody, it's they hear I talk and I say I'm a Mexican Korean married to a Vietnamese selling Chevrolets in Oklahoma. They're like, wait a minute, say that again? And I was like, yeah, you won't ever forget that because you'll never meet somebody like me. I'm quite unique.
You keep it interesting. Have you ever been to South Korea?
I have. So when I graduated college, my mom saved up enough money for me to go back in 1995. I haven't been back. You know what? We want to go back because I have 2 daughters, but more importantly, my wife escaped from Vietnam as a refugee. We want to go visit Vietnam and South Korea.
Wow. That would be quite the trip.
Yes.
Can't say I've been to Vietnam. Have been to Thailand though.
Okay.
That was an experience.
Okay.
So closer to that part of the world. What's South Korea like from what you remember?
You know, it's been a long time, but here's the best way to describe it. My oldest daughter lives in New York. She goes to college up there, and it's New York. It's the Asian area has grown so fast with technology. You know, people that living out there, the wealth is there. Automotive manufacturing, golf. My daughter's a Division I golfer, and all the LPGA girls all come from South Korea.
Wow. I wouldn't expect that, but you know, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I mean, these kids are now at age 5 and 6. They are trained for golf. That's all. It's the golf mecca. And so when they found out my daughter has Korean blood, they're like, oh, she's part of our group now. I was like, okay, y'all can accept her now.
Yeah. I think globalization in general has just changed so many things. I mean, do you remember, this is completely the kind of left field, but do you remember where, if anyone here, you know, traveled and stuff, Europe and anywhere else, Asia, like movies, like American Hollywood movies would get released like a month or 2 later overseas. And it was funny because like we were always 1, 2, 3 months ahead of the entire world. Obviously that's not the case anymore nowadays because things are globalization, things are just moving so much faster. But it's funny to think that that's the world we used to live in.
You're exactly right. I mean, everything's caught up. We were in Paris last summer and just to see how much they've caught up on stuff. And of course they're fashion forward on everything, but technology, everything that they have is amazing.
Dorian, how do you go from pre-med career to being a dealer principal? Give us, you know, I just the other day, I recorded a podcast with the team and they asked me a question, which was, what is like one thing that you've learned or that's like unexpected to you about since launching this podcast? By the time of the airing of this podcast, I'm not sure if that podcast will be live already. It probably will. Anyway, so the way I responded to that question was I said, I'm shocked at the backgrounds of some of the dealers I meet, from CPG background, tech background. Like the stereotypical dealer is like, I don't like long gone in a way, but it's the game has changed. Like the dealer of today is not the dealer of yesterday, right? And I think you're exhibit D in this case, because I spoke about exhibit A, B, and C. So how do you make it into automotive? Tell us your story.
So quickly, I'll tell you, you know, I got my pre-med degree. I was in dental school. I was going to go dental and medical school because my goal was to be an oral maxillofacial surgeon. I'm in school. I get a phone call from my dad. He's got cancer. And the blessing was being in medical school. I was able to go to my professors. They saved my dad's life. He has stomach cancer. He was supposed to only live 6 years. 28 years later, he's still kicking around. So I'm thinking, being Hispanic, having a pre-med degree, being in dental school, I could get a job easy. No luck. So I went to the Honda store where I had bought my car. I was getting oil change, and my salesman was a manager. And he says, I thought you were going to be a doctor, Dorian. I said, yeah, that's what I thought too. But I had to quit school. I got to help my dad. I got to pay for chemo. And he says, well, why don't you come sell cars? And my first response was, I'm sorry, but these are guys that never graduated college. You know, they smoke, they wear that plaid jacket. All they do is lie. That's not me. He said, don't you need cancer money? I said, yeah. He goes, well, just try to sell cars, get yourself money, and then go back to school. Well, fast forward 28 years later, you know, and it's been a long journey. It hasn't been easy. You know, I sold cars at the #1 Honda store in the country. 10 of us out of that dealership have become dealer principals.
10 people that work there are now dealer principals.
They're dealer principals, and about 15 or 16 of us became general managers.
This is like the PayPal mafia, but in automotive. This is like the dealer principal mafia. Tell me more.
So it's, you know, my mentor, his name is Renee Issip, and you need to have him on. He's retired now. He is the car guru, but he took anybody that, as long as they had hustle and as long as they had enthusiasm. Some folks barely spoke any English. There were some of us that had $2 to our name in our pocket. I think we spoke over 20 languages at that dealership. You know, we were all huddled up, and, you know, we had months where we'd sell 600, 800 new cars out of that tiny dealership. But the vision we had, it was special ops boot camp. If you could survive there, you could go anywhere in the nation and sell cars and thrive. Anywhere.
That's still statistically like absurd. Can you tell me, give me like very fine detail. Like, what was that like? Why do you think 10 of you have gone to become dealer principals?
You know, when I look back at the 10 of them, you know, these were individuals that at some point in their time, they've been humbled. They lost everything. They're trying to figure out life. And they just said, you know what? I'm all in. And, you know, we got beat up. I mean, you were yelled at. You were micromanaged. You were working bell to bell. You were there 6 days a week. You were making pennies on the dollar. But if you hustled enough, like myself, he believed in me and he promoted me within 6 months to finance. And these finance managers that we had, we were the best of the best of the best, running crazy numbers, just cranking out deals left and right. And I always joke, the day I asked him, I went to him and I said, hey boss, I want to be a sales manager. He goes, Dorian, you're too young. I was like, what are you talking about, boss? I run the best numbers. You know, I'm running this in finance penetration, this in warranty. I'm running this per copy. He goes, you're not good enough. And I said, well, the competitor down the road, he'll hire me. He goes, get the hell out of here. And so I went over to an Acura store and became a sales.
So this was when you left the Honda store. I'm perplexed right now because on one hand, I'm trying to figure out the common thread here. Like, is this person a hiring genius? Or is this like on the other hand, he let go of phenomenal talent. No. So it's like, I can't reconcile this.
You know, he is very good at what he does, but he also had a all-star team around him, right? And he had individuals. There's Michael Vu was our sales director, and this gentleman escaped from Vietnam, was one of the greatest hustlers, and he'd literally take people into his house and he would clothe them, feed them, let them live there till they got on their feet. And, you know, he'd put us through Marine boot camp for sales training. But Renee knew having the right pre-owned manager, special finance manager, finance director, he had all these pieces that all walks of life, and we grew, we challenged each other, we fought with each other all the time because we always wanted more. You know, we were chasing the dollar, we were chasing the dream. We wanted to have fancy cars, fancy clothes. Everybody wanted to have a Rolex, right? Harley Davidsons, all that kind of stuff. But we knew it was hustle, hustle, hustle. It was not about just selling 10 cars, selling 20 cars, 30 cars, 40 cars. Each salesperson, how do we get to that next level? How do we make 10 grand a month? How do we get in front of every single client? Because, you know, back then, this was 1996. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones, but we had yellow pages and we had to call X number of people. We had to hustle.
Dorian, what are some like common lessons or, you know, specific insights from that period in your life that you've taken with you and are implementing today at your store, which we'll talk a lot about more shortly? Because I have to imagine like there were some great things that you learned at that period in your life. And there were also some not great things which led you to leaving. So like what were any great things that you still implement today with your teams?
You know, the biggest thing I learned is grit. You know, everybody can have the hustler mentality, but the hustler mentality will only get you so far.
Everybody's gangster until they get punched in the face.
That's exactly right. And you can only be for so long, right? So you have to have grit and figure out that the door's going to get slammed in your face nonstop, right? But go to the next door, go to the next door, go to the next door, go to the next. Don't give up. You just can't give up. And you got to find ways and figure out your passion and figure out, you know, what lane you can do well in. You're going to get knocked down all the time. Anybody thinks that the car business is easy? I sit there and says, nobody will tell you it's easy. It's nothing but failure, 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 failure. And then eventually you're going to come across a break and you'll do well.
when you say that, I just think about my kids and I say like, man, I'm blessed. I have amazing children, but what will be the challenges that they'll face? Because look, the reality is, like, let's call a spade a spade. They won't face the financial challenges that we as a family faced when I was younger. They won't face that. And I mean, God willing, they won't face that, like, barring any disaster. But the point is, like, how do I instill that in them, right? Do I tell them at age 16, go work in hospitality or like go, be a waiter or a waitress? Like, how do I get them that grit that I grew up in the car business, right? When that vehicle comes in, that's like dogged, it's disgusting, and we have like 2 hours to get it ready, and the detailer calls out, and I'm in there spraying all these chemicals, like hallucinating from the scents, and using the shampoo machine, like, you know what I mean? Like, these things, problem solving and figuring out solutions and being under pressure, not to disappoint. Like, what outlets can I use in life to teach my kids that the car business taught me?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
So, my wife says this. My wife, if she ever wants it, we have a 20-year-old and 16-year-old daughters. It's the greatest blessings in the world. Whenever we're hearing our daughters and our daughters say, well, it's different, you just don't understand, we always say, bless your heart, you were born in America. And we don't mean to say that wrong, right? But they're both born in America, and so things are different. As a parent, you always want to give your kids a better life, a better opportunity than you had. However, you never want them to forget. So my mother-in-law still lives in government-assisted housing. We take our kids back there. They get to see it. They know 8 o'clock at night, leave, come back, somewhere else, because you got gangs there, stuff like that. But you do have to instill the values. We make both of our kids, our big philosophy is giving back. My wife was a refugee. So a lot of great people in this country helped her out. So we're always helping others, whether they're working in a shelter, food bank, little things like that, because they need to learn to appreciate that, yes, they have the nicer things in life, better education choices, but you got to teach them. And, owning a dealership, I make my kids come in here so they understand all aspects of the car dealership.
Yeah. There's a book that my wife read. I haven't read it, but I just know a couple insights from it. I think it's called like How to Raise Great Children or How to Raise Successful Children, something like that. And it's by Esther Wojcicki, or however you pronounce her last name. She is the mother of this CEO of 23andMe, and formerly Ann Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, who I believe passed away. Long story short, but she says that when the girls were younger, she would take them to do a lot of like volunteering and giving back, which was a super important value to instill. And by all means, I do not believe that success in life is, 100% correlated to like your financial success. That's just not the values that I uphold. But I think there's definitely something to learn there from that book and from her. Her daughters are obviously extremely like professionally successful, or, one were, and one still is potentially. But anyways, that just comes to mind, like you said, giving back, volunteering, instilling those values. I think it is really important. So I agree with you on that.
So Yoshi, I'll tell you this, and I'm not perfect, but I tell any successful person, if you want to measure if you're successful, let me interview your kids. And I'm going to tell I'm going to ask your kids this one question. Tell me about your mom or your dad, and don't talk about work, and see how long that interview is.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah. Because we always, it's sad. It's, in the business world, we measure everything in success by monetary, by hey, this metric, that metric. But the most important thing you got to look at is paying it forward. What have you done to help someone else? Not for your good, but for the greater good of others around you. Because my journey of 28 years, man, I've been knocked down so many times, but I've always had somebody that's helped me, guided me, mentored me. And so I've realized along that path, who am I going to help? Not just in the car business, but just in life. Because the only way we can be successful is together as a community. In the beat downs, nobody needs that. We need help from each other.
Do you feel like you've attracted that, right? When you say you've had mentors, like some people say like, hey, where can I find this mentor? Do you feel like you've just done good work and the mentors have naturally like found you, right? Like what's your playbook for that?
I've surrounded myself with some pretty good mentors. I got burned on a couple of them that I trust. I trusted more people than I should have, and I got burned, right? But what I look at is, how can I help others? And I had a gentleman call me the other day. I was very fortunate that General Motors selected me to be one of the minority dealer candidates, and that's how I got my dealership.
This episode is brought to you by OpenLane, the leading online dealer marketplace for used cars. OpenLane brings more than 25 years of innovation to the wholesale automotive industry, solely focused on making wholesale easy so dealers can be more successful. Their marketplace offers a fast and transparent way to source used and fresh vehicle inventory. Looking to sell? On OpenLane, you can turn vehicles into more cash fast. With a nationwide network of buyers, vehicles listed on OpenLane sell in less than a day on average. OpenLane is the industry leader in innovation, rolling out new tools to make buying and selling easier. Visual Boost AI leverages the power of AI to help buyers review vehicles quickly and bid with confidence. New to OpenLane, sign up now and new sellers receive a $2,500 sale fee credit. Learn more at openlane.com or click the link in the show notes below.
Can you just explain what that means and how this process works and then go into the, I think that's important.
Okay, so let's talk about the car business, right? You can have all-star salespeople, then you can have an all-star finance manager, sales manager. You can have an all-star GSM, you can have an all-star GM. But guess what? They'll never own a dealership, right? There's 15,000 dealerships in the nation. And out of those 15,000, there's only 1,400 that are owned by a minority. Now let's take this equation, this 1,400. And probably maybe 1,000 of them are some celebrity or some rich person, not a common person. I'm a common person. You know, I've been very successful in different titles, right? But I've never been at the owner's table. You know, people want to say imposter syndrome. I don't belong there because I'm not an owner. And I had an angel, and I'll call her an angel. She doesn't like when I say her name, so I'm not going to say her name, but this angel. So I came to Chevrolet in 2019 because of my wife. My wife says, you need to go work for this gentleman named Tom Durant. I'd worked in Highline most of my career. And I said, honey, I'm not going to go work at Chevrolet. A, I don't know nothing about trucks. And I'm used to being around nothing but rich people. You know, I've sold to the most successful billionaires, stuff like that. She goes, go work for this man. He's a great human. He's a great family man. All right. And so I went to go visit with Tom Durant, and Mike Ward is the GM there. And they both took a chance on me in November 2019. Changed my life forever. COVID hits, and I have to find a way to survive because I thought I was getting fired. But they made me general sales manager, and I just created a different fun culture. That store was a rock star store. I just elevated to the next level to make it fun. Well, I got recognized by General Motors nationwide of what is Dorian doing differently. He's doing all these events. He's doing social media. He's bringing everybody as a family. He's just having fun. And so this angel said, Dorian, there's a program through GM. It's a minority dealer development program. I said, yeah, you're going to feed me that BS again. Dangle that carrot. I'll be a dealer. That never happens. She said, Dorian, I'm telling you, your track record, everything you've done in the community, charity, dealership, building a team, the success measures, everything on paper, you're perfect on it, right? We just need to make sure we get you in front of the right people. And that's when I realized the car business is different. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And so I went through a vetting process. I joined NAMAD, National Association of Minority Auto Dealers. Never even knew what that was. All right. I'm sitting at the back of the room. I go through this interview process, and within 6 months, they call me and says, Dorian, if you're willing to move, we have an opportunity for you. And I says, okay, perfect. You know, I work for Tom Durant. If they go, no, Dorian, this is for you. I said, what are you talking about? They said, we just want you. And I told them real quick, I said, listen, Tom Durant took a chance on me in 2019. I want to partner with him. They said, you don't have to partner. You can go on your own. I said, no. I said, he trusted in me, and I want to partner with him. In June of 23, I became dealer principal and majority owner and had moved up to Oklahoma, moved my family up here, and I finally felt welcome, and I'm part of the owner group. And it's the most humbling thing in the world. But now I want to help others, because if I could do it, anybody can. Because I'm a nobody. I'm an absolute nobody. I've failed 28 years of my career, right? But I've never given up. Even my own kids didn't think, Dad, you'll never own a dealership. You run dealerships. Everybody knows you're famous in Dallas. Everybody knows who you are, but you're never going to own a dealership. And now my daughters are like, all right, how do I get in it? How do I own a dealership?
Dorian, what's this? I read my notes and it said #1 Chevy dealership in the country. What does that mean? Can you explain to me what #1 by what standard?
Yep. So at Classic Chevrolet, so Tom Durant created this empire. He's been at this location in Grapevine for 30 years, and he ran a 10-year stretch where he was #1 in the nation for total new car sales, right? He was also #1 in fleet. Well, he went through a period after the financial crisis where he was very fortunate in the foresight that he had. He bought some failing stores in Florida, throughout Texas, and he moved his key individuals to these stores. So there was a time period where he dropped in rankings because he lost some key individuals. And he brought Mike Ward on, the general manager, who's probably one of the greatest car guys I've ever been around. And Mike started assembling this team, and I call it the dream team, of different managers, different walks of life. And we got back up to being #1 in the nation for sales.
Are you #1 right now?
That Chevrolet store in Grapevine is. Yeah, they are. I'm no longer at that store. I'm in Oklahoma, but that's in Grapevine, Texas. They finished last year #1 in the country, #1 in fleet sales.
Yeah, but one second. So are you an owner at that store as well, or only yours?
No, just Oklahoma, just Oklahoma City. But I'm a branch of Tom Durant, the owner. He's my business partner in this store.
I understand. So he still owns that dealership, and he's partnered with you in this.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
He's partnered with, I think there's 11 of us. that he's given ownership into.
Smart man.
Well, here's the thing. It's not about money for him. And, he's a kind person. He trusts his inner circle. And if he sees somebody with a little bit of talent, he invests in it.
He locks him down. He locks him down.
Capital.
Dorian, what can you tell us about like the economics of these deals that Tom Duran does with people, like yourself or others? I mean, what can you share I'm sure people are wondering, like, how does he do it? What's the structure? What's the split? What are the economics? How does control work?
Yep.
What can you share with the world and just like kind of, teach us about that?
So it's funny. It's amazing. As you move up in different levels, you all of a sudden get these pseudo friends. So all of a sudden I become an owner and I get phone calls. Hey buddy, how are you doing? Hey, what's going on? I'm like, hey, what do you want? I ain't talked to you in 10 years. What's up? Well, how do I get connected with Tom Duran? How do I do this? I said, all you got to do is simple. Go sell cars for Tom, right? Move up the ladder. And if you prove yourself, he'll give you an opportunity. Oh, he just won't give me a deal? No, that's not the way Tom operates. We all have come out of the Grapevine dealership and, he wants to see you hands-on because Tom's in the store every day and he gets to see the numbers, the interaction. I mean, I got grilled when I first got there. He has 5 or 6 key people that have been with him 30 years and he interviews those people and says, tell me about Dorian. And not everything was great. I'll be like, man, Dorian's a bully. He's aggressive. He's doing this, changing this, doing this. And he's like, oh, okay. And literally Tom grabbed me one day. He goes, you're a little bit of a bully. I said, okay, Tom, is that good or bad? He goes, no, we needed some change and you're shaking it up. He goes, and you're moving the needle and you're assembling a team. I said, Tom, I'm passionate about what I do. I may not do it the perfect way, but I'll move the needle and I'll move people in the right direction. And so, when you're asking the question, how does Tom do it? Depending on the deal structure, mine was very unique because typically the manufacturers will come to Tom, hey, I have this deal. This deal, they came to me directly. They didn't involve Tom. So it was a little bit of a different structure.
Okay, so so that is unique that you had the deal. You had, in a sense, control of the deal. What did you need? Did you need capital, expertise, nothing? You just wanted to partner? Like, what did you need to make the deal happen?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. This was very unique. So GM has a vetting process for the minority dealer, and GM has what's called Motors Holding. And Motors Holding is GM actually owning you for a contract. And so that's what they proposed to me. They said, Dorian, come up with X capital. You can buy this dealership. We'll be the partner in it. And then everything's taken care of. You don't have to worry about a bank or anything. They are the bank. I said, let me look into this. And Tom Duran has a great relationship with one bank. Not going to mention the bank, but a unbelievable relationship with the bank. So as we're talking about the deal structure, Tom makes one phone call, calls the head of the bank and says, hey, y'all know Dorian. He's buying a store in Oklahoma. Here's the land. Here's the blue sky. Are we done? They're like, yeah, Tom, you and Dorian, no problem. Take care of. And I'm sitting there and, I have a loan. I have a loan against the land. I have a loan against the blue sky. Tom and I have a partnership percentage on it. I'm very blessed how big of a partnership it is because, like I said, he could have just taken, when I presented the deal to him, he could have just taken it over. But he also understood that this was a minority appointed store. So it kind of opened his eyes and he goes, all right, Dorian, let's run with this. He wanted me to stay. And I always tell this story that he goes, Dorian, you get paid very well as the general sales manager of the store. You're comfortable here. Your family's here. Why would you want to leave? And I said, hey, Tom, there's a difference between signing the front of the check versus signing the back of the check. And he says, get out of here. Go move to Oklahoma.
Wow. What a G. That's amazing. Great story. So take me now a step further into the dealership, right? You came in with the different mentality. The store was, let's say, struggling.
That's a nice way to say it. Okay, let me take you back. Bought the store June of 2023. Tom is throwing a goal.
Wait, by the way, so I found it interesting though. It wasn't an open point. It wasn't like a new store.
Nope.
So what happened? They were just struggling financially. They needed new leadership or got their franchise revoked.
GM was shutting the store down. This was a corporate owned dealership, and GM says, nope, we're shutting it down. And
so I want to understand, you go in there, what's your playbook, right? Explain to me specifically, kind of, if you can, step by step, what did you change?
So it's a small dealership, right? We're in a metro town, but it's a very small dealership. And the funny thing is, the first day I told my wife, I said, honey, you're going to work in the dealership. My wife's been in telecom. She's never worked in a dealership before. And she says, no, I'm going to be the GM. I said, how the heck are you going to be the GM? You've never been in the car business. I didn't know she had enrolled herself in NADA Dealer Academy. and she's learning the ins and outs of the car business, right? We graduated college 30 years ago, and she's going to be hands-on.
Wait, your wife enrolled at NADA Dealer Academy. You did not know about this at all?
I didn't know she was doing this, right? She's like, did all this stuff. She graduates next month. She's finished #1 in her class in 3 of the 6 segments so far. She's a fixed ops guru now. I'm teaching the variable side, but we came on day 1 and this dealership was broken. It wasn't struggling is not the word. It was broken. The corporation didn't care about the store. They owned another group about 10, 15 miles away, which was their auto mall. And so all their talent, all their resources went to that store. They could care less about this store. So when I came on board, my wife and I are happy-go-lucky. We're upbeat on stuff. And the staff is like, who the heck are these guys from Texas? First off, Oklahomans hate Texans. And I mean, when I say they hate them, they freaking hate them. And so I had to change my approach of not saying everything Texan. But we showed a family type of environment. We lost a lot of people. We had a bunch of turnover when we first came on board. And so we're still going through the growth period right now and establishing the right foundation. But everything was about caring, being about the community. We launched our social media platforms. We're not a social media guru on stuff. I sit at the front desk. I'm the receptionist, okay? And people always think it's a ploy. They think it's some kind of gimmick. The only time I sit in this office is when I'm on a quick meeting or I'm visiting with employees. But my office is the front desk, the receptionist. And I get customers to this day come up and go, hey, I just want to see if you really sat here. Yeah, I sit here. This is what I do. And the reason I do that is being a small dealership, we have one entrance, one exit. I get to see when every employee and when every customer comes in and leaves. I know the heart of everything. And then to my left, my ear, I can hear the service lounge. I get to hear everything we're at their service clients. I'm here at finance.
You got your fingers on the pulse.
I do. And that's probably the best thing to do because you get to interact. And so customers will interview the salespeople and says, man, do you really like the owner sitting right there? They go, oh yeah. Because if we need to negotiate or we got a question, we just ask him. We don't ask the desk.
Let me ask you a question though. Does that make the store dependent on you? Like, do you find that it hurts accountability? Because what you just mentioned is an important point, right?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I looked at is the car business is full of egos. Right? Titles, entitlement, I've done this, my record is this. And so by me sitting at the front desk, there's not a single employee that they can think that they're better than anybody else. Because I look at it, I go pick up the trash, right? I help out at the front desk, I help out service, I help out everything. So I don't look at it as dependent. I just look at it as I'm the synergy, right? I want them to feed off of me. I want there not to be any barriers where they say, well, I got to go to a closer, to a desk manager, to a finance manager, to the GSM, to the GM. No, there's no walls. We're family, we're a tight-knit community. If there's compliments or there's areas of criticism, I want to be involved to help out. It's just like the way businesses used to be back in the old days. You could find the owners, you could find the family. If you had a question, you could ask them. You didn't have to call California or New York to say, oh, corporate is somewhere else. All right, it's a family-owned business. We're serving the community. We're involved in the community.
This episode is brought to you by Trade Pending. If you've seen the Carvana ad for the value tracker that lets people get monthly emails tracking their car's value over time and thought to yourself, dang, I wish I had something like that for my dealership, you need to check out Trade Pending's newly launched Value Watch. The first of its kind for franchise dealership, Value Watch lets your customers and your leads subscribe to automated monthly emails and texts that track their vehicle's value over time while also promoting your service offers. Go visit Trade Pending at NADA booth 851 to see how you can keep more of your customers for life with no extra effort from your team. Again, that's Trade Pending at NADA booth 851. We'll see you there.
Do you have aspirations to have additional stores in the future?
Yes.
You know where my question is heading, right?
Yeah. So
I'm just how do you scale? How do you scale this?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I just passed on the opportunity of a Toyota store, a big Toyota store, and I was glad Tom Durant being my partner. He walked me through and he said, Dorian, Toyota wants you back. I said, yeah, and he says, but it's got to be the right opportunity. Don't just jump on anything. He says, yeah, and I'm glad he told me on that. I was sad for a little while, but my wife graduates NADA Dealer Academy. GM wants her bad, so she'll get a store. My oldest daughter graduates college in May, goes to law school. She'll get a store. I'm looking at a couple other stores. And when you look at scaling it, yeah, I can't be at every store at all times, but it's having the right people that you trust. You've got to have, and that's what we've done. My wife has assembled a dream team of, 4 or 5 major players that they see the vision, they see the growth. We're not an overnight success. It's taken time. We've been knocked down, we've been humbled several months, but they see our vision and they see our growth. I mean, we just got approved from GM to be business elite fleet, commercial, medium duty, bright drop, and we've only been a dealer a year and a half. GM believes.
But I don't want to miss that point. That's a big one. So why did you pass on this Toyota store? That's an opportunity that could, and some people would wish it even comes once in a lifetime, but then to pass on it, why? Is this like a financial decision or are other factors?
That's part of it. One of it, they wouldn't sell us the land. And, my business partner, Tom, is really smart on that. He goes, let me explain to you about the car business. It's about real estate. He says, when you own the real estate, you control everything. It wasn't in the best of neighborhood. The amount of money that they wanted was crazy. Somebody paid for it. And of course it had to be somebody out of California that paid for it. But, it just wasn't that right opportunity. But, I'm still courting Toyota and they're courting me. I'm talking to a few other manufacturers because these manufacturers have realized they don't want to just plug in a minority dealer. They've looked at their buyers and the demographics, and they've realized that they've got to get more in touch. I mean, less than 8% of all dealers are owned by a minority. And when you look at the buying population represents 35 to 40% of the buyers. And some of the manufacturers, it's 40 to 45%. So, the NFL's seen it, the NBA's seen it, everybody else has seen it. And now the manufacturers are realizing we need to get minorities that are successful at business growth. You get them involved in these dealerships. So I'm now owning a dealership. I'm in the driver's seat that I can pick and choose what I want. I no longer have to sit there, please give me a dealership, please give me a dealership. I get the opportunity from a standpoint of where do I see our growth? Where do I see our future?
What do you think? Like you I saw some of your pictures, with, like I said, the horse in the dealership, the guitar. So you clearly cultivate this it seems like a very fun culture.
Yep.
How do you do that while still maintaining a culture that values excellence, that values discipline, right? That brings results. At the end of the day, it's a business that needs to generate profits. And so the fun is great, but you can, you earn the fun or you can do the fun if you're performing. How do you balance the two?
So, first thing when you talk about the word fun, nobody wants to come to a car dealership. Nobody wakes up and says, man, I really want to go to that car dealership and get some random salesperson that knows nothing about me, who's going to lie, cheat, and steal, not listen to me, get beat up for 6 hours, buy a car, and then 6 months down the road when I come into service, I'm going to get some random service guy who's going to try to sell me a bunch of stuff that I don't need. That car dealership experience, people hate it. They'll go to a mall and have fun, but they don't want to come to a car dealership. So when I say the word fun, it's more about transparency. It's more about them engaging so that both the employees and the customers understand, hey, it's a great environment to buy and service cars from that dealership. All right. At the end of the day, we are measured by our numbers, our growth, health of the finances. So accountability is key on that. So a big thing that I've been instilled by some of my great mentors is empower your staff. Right? And allow them to grow it as it's their own business. The reason why I'm sitting here today as an owner is day one, when I was a car salesman, I envisioned myself to own a dealership. And I says, if I were the owner, what would I do? And so it changed my habits on everything that I did. I work extra hours. I was involved. I helped other salespeople. I helped other managers because I saw my growth potential. And when you empower, and we've got some key people at our dealership that they take on 4 or 5 different roles. Because they see the growth and they see how they can help. And if you do that, your bottom line gets better. And so does your employee satisfaction, your client satisfaction. All that leads to profitability.
What does that mean to you when you say empower? It's this like philosophical word, but what does that mean in action? Does it mean that, you're closing your eyes and they're making decisions? Like how do you actually empower your team?
So, I'll take it from, let's take a sales consultant level, right?
Okay.
We had several instances that because this was a corporate owned store, that they're rigor, they can only do X, Y, Z, right? And so when I kick off a sales meeting, I'll bring up some scenarios that says, hey, I noticed you had this customer the other day and they had an issue and they looked at, that the old change was done wrong. They spent this time, they did this time. Do you think you're empowered to be able to offer them something? No, we're not allowed to. I said, okay, I'll let you. I said, but we're not breaking the bank. So if you've got to help them out, $50, $100, something on here, buy them a set of floor mats. get them a coffee mug, get them this, help out on a deal, push the trade just a little bit. I don't want this back and forth stuff. I want you to feel empowered. When it comes to thousands of dollars, yes, that's got to come to ownership level, higher levels. But when we're working hundreds, take care of them. And it's amazing when we did that, they actually gave up less, but they knew they could. In an instance, they'll come to me, hey boss, man, the other day it cost us $200 to do that. Okay, cool. How much did the deal make? Oh, the deal made this on the front, this on the back. Okay. Did you feel like it was a win? Yeah, I didn't have to go to a manager. I didn't have to do anything. I felt empowered. I was able to make the decision right then and there. I felt like I was the boss. I said, then act like it every day. Act like you own it, right? And then that way, because it is your money as well. Every time you're giving up, that's your money. And just seeing them to be able to make decisions daily, versus the norm. Seeing a technician, seeing a service manager, seeing a service advisor saying, hey, I went ahead and did this. I know this may have cost us a little bit of money, but I was able to upsell this and this. And so in theory, it was healthier for the store. And I said, was it healthier for you? Yeah, I actually saw my money go up as well. Well, that's what we're looking at from an empowerment standpoint, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. It's a good example. Like putting real tactics or really tactical, systems and processes in place to allow the team to actually do more on their own and sort of take control of their destiny. I'll also add that we spoke about ownership. I think it's growing, and we have obviously lots of dealer principals that listen to this, but we also have GMs, sales managers, salespeople, and industry vendors and partners. And I think just growing in the dealership, right? It's work hard and all that, of course, but like you said, just do more than you're asked, right? Solve other problems, do more than your job description, and that will get noticed, assuming you have like a semi-competent leader, right? If you go to your boss and you like help them do their job easier, faster, better, like that will get you noticed and you'll grow. And so it's not complicated. You just got to put in the work and the opportunities will come over time. I love the line, which is like, how do they say, like in life, you'll eventually get what you're worth, right? Over a extended time period, right? Your value to society, right? Like you'll get it. It'll reflect, of course, over an extended time period though, right? It might not happen in one place. You might get screwed over in another, but over an extended time, right? The world does give you what you're worth. And so, like you said, really put in that work and over deliver. It's a pretty tried and true formula.
I look at it, I say this, and cliches in the car business, we're so bad. We use sports analogies and we steal other people's lines. But, a big thing people always say, it's easy being average, right? A philosophy I always say is be comfortable at being uncomfortable. Because if you're just the type of person that sits in your lazy boy, does the same routine every single time, you're going to get the same results. Go try to do something and fail. And when you fail, learn from that and get up. I've failed so many times throughout my career, but like I said about my mentor's like, hey, Dorian, that didn't work. What are you going to do next? All right, let me try this. But I was always trying to I never brown-nosed or tried to suck up to my bosses, but I knew if I could do something that was innovative, help out, teach somebody else, and grow, our dealership would grow, profitability would grow, offer insight. We always have to be learning. The most dangerous line in the car business, and my wife says this all the time, the most dangerous line is when somebody says, well, we've always
been done this way.
Yep.
I got it.
And when you say that every time, you think about it. And I think about my buddies from the 90s, from the early 2000s. Yep, this is how we do it. No, things change. We innovate. We grow. Be more efficient. Don't reinvent the wheel, but be more efficient. Find different ways to grow your brand.
One of the craziest things about the Car Dealership Guy platform is our direct access to literally thousands of dealership and automotive employees. So naturally, I often hear this question. CDG, can you use your network to help me fill an open role at my company? Well, now I can. Building on the success of my free industry job board, I'm proud to launch CDG Recruiting, a more hands-on white glove automotive recruiting service. Whether you're looking to fill roles in dealership management, C-suite, F&I, fixed ops, auto tech, SaaS, we take the hassle out of hiring by doing the heavy lifting for you. And here's the best part. We vet and screen thousands of candidates so you don't have to. And with our placement guarantee, hiring through CDG Recruiting is 100% worry-free. Our team has decades of experience and has successfully placed over 1,000 roles in the automotive industry. So if you're ready to find your next rockstar employee, try CDG Recruiting today by visiting cdgrecruiting.com or clicking the link in the show notes below. Again, that's cdgrecruiting.com.
Dorian, where are you seeing the most amount of change right now at your dealership?
The reality of individuals that were in the car business during COVID, they're used to that, right? Today, we're back to real car business. People are gutting prices left and right. Grosses have eroded. You're having to figure out what I call survival mode. It's truly survival. The manufacturers are shoving inventory down your throat. They're making you take EVs left and right. I'm a fan of EVs, but it's not in every market. Consumers now have choices, and consumers, they're looking at right now, every dollar counts them. So if you're not pitching value, if you're not pitching worth, you're failing. You're completely failing right now. And so it's back to work, and you're seeing some individuals that are throwing in the towel going, man, I can't do this. This is hard work. Yeah, the car business is not easy.
All right. Well, so let's just take a quick step back, because one thing that you've done that impressed me is in your prior store, you did achieve a really high status with fleet sales, right? You guys were very strong on the fleet side. Was it, I believe, some of the best in the country? Yeah, I'm curious to know.
That's the number one fleet store in the country. But I'll tell you, they have a great department over there. So they have an entire building, an entire team that does really well. But one of the things we also incorporated, and I like to call it the word fleet-tail. It's fleet-tail. Yeah.
Fleet-tail.
So we started looking at small businesses, and we started saying, how do we capture more of that? So example, like yourself, you own your business now, right? And you're going to buy a vehicle. In theory, you're going to probably use it for business. So I'm going to find a way to put it in your business name to, if we can build up business credit for you, we're going to do that. So now I've just reported a fleet deal. It's really fleet retail. It's your personal vehicle, but you're using it for business. So now I'm putting in your business name. So we started doing more and more of that because there's so many people that are business owners. They've got an LLC, they're on Shopify or whatever the case may be. Let's put in your business name. Let's put in your business name. And it grew.
Why though, Dorian? Why? Like, what's the benefit for you to do that?
For the dealership or the customer?
Both.
Okay, so for the dealership, the benefit is now I'm showing to the manufacturer, look how much I've grown business sales, small business sales. And they're seeing those dynamics because they understand the retail consumer, but when they start seeing businesses, they're like, oh man, if you've got a business, then that means you got a better opportunity because you've got the business owner, the business wife, the business children, their associates, everything else. So we're going to grow it exponentially, from the consumer standpoint.
Tell me more about that benefit. Okay. So they see that. Yep. Do they spiff you better? Do you get better programs? Like, what else happens?
I get better programs, but I also get more inventory. Because they start seeing that spike, right? Because one thing that was great with Tom Durant is
smart.
He had a dealership. The dealership that I worked at in Grapevine sat on 64 acres. We had 2,000 to 3,000 new cars. And I'm just sitting there looking at floor plan going, oh my God. But his philosophy is everything's bigger and better in Texas. And if you got it, they'll come buy it. And so he was always that, how do I get more inventory? How do I get more inventory? And, as we grew the business, the fleet tail business, it helped, and we acquired more inventory because GM was like, all right, we got an extra 100 Malibus. Do you want them? The rental car companies don't want them. Yeah, we'll take them. We'll take them. We'll take them.
So now tell me about the consumer side. How do you view the benefit for them?
So the consumer side, one of the biggest things they looked at is, especially on, Silverado being the number one selling truck, that qualified for gross vehicle weight. So they were able to get Section 179 and get accelerated depreciation and save on their taxes because their CPAs weren't telling them this. I'm like, listen, you guys, vehicle that's over 6,000 pounds, if it's for business use, whether you put in your personal name and you write the monthly payments off, you're able to take this deduction off the top of your gross for your revenue for your business. And so they're getting huge deductions left and right. And, December they're coming in. All right, I got to get it before December 31st. I need another write-off. And left and right, we're seeing that. And it just kept growing and growing and growing.
Dorian, it's been a really good discussion. And before we go to closing and wrap up, what's on your mind lately? Like, what are you thinking about, right? You walk into the dealership, you make that cup of coffee, you're sitting in your receptionist desk at the front door. What's on your mind nowadays?
I'm very optimistic. I see the growth. I see the future. But I also am a realist. And if we had COVID hit and we had the financial crisis of 07, 08, I always look at what's next. What are we prepared for? Right? Because it's not roses all the time.
What's the next challenge?
There's going to be a challenge. It's inevitable. I pray to God we don't go to war, but you just don't know. We had cyber attacks with the CDK. Something's going to happen, unfortunately. We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to change, but we have to be prepared. And
only the paranoid survive. Only the paranoid survive.
Yeah,
That's a good book. That's a good book, by the way.
I got to read that book, but it's people find ways to survive, and more importantly, people find ways to thrive. And so in order to thrive, you have to have your right team assembled and your right processes and the right mindset to be prepared for those moments. You can't just be average and just sit back. You got to realize in the future what's going to come up next.
You're one inspirational mofo.
No, that's my wife. I'm just a car guy.
Dorian, last thing. If there's any OEMs listening to this, what message do you have for them? And ask, a comment, anything.
Go visit a dealership on a Saturday. Stop working that damn Monday through Friday. Walk in on a Saturday and go visit with the people. Go talk to a customer. Go talk to a tech. Go talk to a salesperson. Go talk to a body shop, and you'll get the real reality of what's going on in a car dealership.
Love it. So you give them an open invite. They can show up to your store
anytime. Come on over.
All right, let's do it. Dorian Jimenez, what a king. Dorian, appreciate you, man. This was incredible. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights. Extremely inspirational.
Yossi, thank you for having me on. Thank you for what you're doing. You are giving the voice so that everybody can hear what's truly happening in our industry with the OEMs, the dealership, just normal people. And, you have a lot of great people on here, and now you had just a normal person. So you kind of balance it out.
Come on. What's your favorite episode, if you have one?
You know what? John Clay Wolf, because John's been a friend of mine.
John Clay Wolf.
Yeah.
That was an oldie. It's a good one.
He's been a friend of mine, and he helped me at Grapevine when we opened up. We did a buying center. John's it. He's a pioneer. He's a guy that's been knocked down many times, and he always gets up. Always gets up.
He's incredible. Some big ones for that business. That's a risky business.
It's a very risky business, but he made it work.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dorian. Appreciate
Thanks,
you, man.
Yoshi.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.